welcome to the program, Hannah Rose May.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on. I got to say the series, when I read it, it's definitely one that is poignant. That is actually something that's very prevalent, and an issue that, of course, fandom has been dealing with for a while. And many female actors, comic creators, and whatnot have had to deal with the ire of internet trolls. And this really talks about that in a way that hasn't been done before. So for people who haven't got a chance to check out the series, tell them what it's all about.
Thanks so much. So you kind of, that was a great intro there. You gave a lot of the story away, which is perfect.
I didn't give the details. You're the details person. There you go.
Okay. It's a high concept home invasion thriller based around toxic fandom. We came out the gate letting everyone know that it was an invasion. So I think I didn't want to lead the witness by any means, because obviously
Right.
we open on the first issue. So we open with the fans. So you read it from the fans' perspective. And then the second issue is all from Maisie, who's the actress that they're going after. And then issue 3, we're with everybody. And then issue 4 is a home invasion. So it's based on Maisie Wade, who's an actress off of a long-running style CW corny superhero show based on a comic book. So it's
I definitely pictured CW when I was reading it. Yeah.
Yeah, all the spandex, all the explosives and bad CGI. But if CW wants me for a show, I am all in. So I am available for hire. She's been on the show for 10 years and she's just done with it. She wants to change, So she quits the show, which then leads to the show being cancelled. And much to the upset of the fans, who have always blamed her for, the bad storylines and when stuff hasn't gone their way, or for the show not staying true to the source material. Everything was always on Maisie. It was always her fault because she was the front-facing person for the show, even though she has very little to do with the story. Unfortunately, actors, we have very little say in anything that goes on in the production world. She leaves the show and the show gets cancelled because of it. So a group of fans, diehard super fans, decide to dress up as the villains of her show and break into her house to teach her a lesson.
Wow. Yeah, we got an email in just now. We got an email in just now from Kelly T, who says, "Hey, Andrew and Mr. Green, Hannah is an amazing comic creator. I can't believe how talented she is. The work is amazing." Aww. And then the rest of the email, Kelly, is, of course, the review of the film we're going to be talking about later, and we will answer the question about that in a little bit. But thank you for your email. That's the thing. This was your first full comic series, correct?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So to come out of the gates like this, that's got to be really, inspiring for you to get out there and do more.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm already deep in my next stories. There will hopefully be some news soon on all of that. But I am very much married to comics now. I've wanted to do it forever. I've been in the space, but behind the scenes, I've had plenty of friends and helped connect people of sorts. If I knew artists or new writers, I was always in comics. I was always a fan of comics, but I never thought, oh, maybe I should just write one day. That wasn't really. I honestly thought nobody would want to read anything from me. That was my God honest truth. But then when the pandemic happened and we all found ourselves, especially in the entertainment business, essentially unemployed, it was my first time since I was 14 that I wasn't working. That I was like, well, what am I supposed to do now? And I just saw the opportunity to write Rogues Gallery. Thankfully it is a success. I honestly can't believe when I'm reading these reviews, I still it's a very out of body experience. I can't believe that I'm reading something, that I created with Justin Mason, my artist on Rogues Gallery, who's incredible. I'm shocked by the response. I'm so chuffed that it, has resonated with so many people and that people want to hear more from me, which is the best situation.
Yeah. I appreciate what you're saying there, Hannah, because looking at your career, it's so different, obviously, than writing comics. You don't think
modeling goes hand in hand?
Well, I guess there's a portion of the fandom that would like to think that way, but it's not common. We will admit to that. But it's always interesting when like a creative like yourself turns from, not necessarily turn away from it, but like, because you had this opportunity to go behind the scenes, do some writing, instead of being in front of a camera or, out there in front of people. Was that process easy for you? Like, looking back on it, was like to sit down and, be by yourself and just write this out and come up with this idea instead of, maybe workshopping it, or like, being in a room where you can work with other actors and a director. Like, how is that process, just knowing that it's just you, like you get to all this creative freedom?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was obviously interesting for me because I also had absolutely nothing to compare it to. So I didn't know if I was doing anything right or I was doing anything wrong. Like, I only knew what I thought based on like pieces of information online. I was fortunate in the sense that, I did hit up Declan Shalvey, an Irish artist and now writer, for advice on the pitch that I had for Rogues Gallery. And Declan really liked it and came on board to kind of oversee and to honestly knock down the door for Image for us to have Rogues Gallery at Image, which I got really fortunate that I only pitched Image and it was a yes. I didn't have to go and, knock around, which I know plenty of people have to bang down publishing doors to get a yes, especially for their first book. But in saying that, I also fully funded Rogues Gallery, which instantly obviously made it a yes, because I didn't have to have a publisher come in on something. I thought that honestly that would be the only way that I could break in to comic books, was by writing something. And my thought process was like, I have never invested in anything in my life. When you come from nothing, I'm very guarded with like, you work hard, you save your money, And the last thing I thought I was going to do was spend it on a comic book. And everybody also told me that like, nobody makes any money in comic books, like you're throwing it away. But I didn't care because I just wanted to like make a comic book so badly. And but thankfully Rogues Gallery is successful. Like, so if anyone tells you otherwise, don't trust them. But the process was definitely different in the sense that, I didn't have any actors to work off of. But it's funny because I feel like I also, with acting, I'm, having auditioned for hundreds of more auditions than I would like to count. I was very good at dialogue. So when I was writing Rogues Gallery, I would say the lines out loud to make sure that they sounded real. And I think like based on all the reviews, a lot of people have said that like the dialogue feels really real, the conversations feel really real, which is like the biggest compliment that I could get. But it's also because of all the endless failures and rejections from acting that I have had that like made that successful. So it was definitely a different process. I do have a book coming out, which hasn't been announced yet, but I will have something next year, and I'm actually co-writing it with somebody. And I was really excited for that opportunity because I wanted, having just done Rogues Gallery solo, I really did want to collaborate with somebody. I have one coming out solo and I have one coming out that's a co-writer. And I will say it's been really fun getting to bounce ideas off of someone. And it did kind of show me how solo the whole Rogues Gallery process was. But obviously I did have my editor, Heather Antos, who's amazing. It is very important, I think, in comics to have somebody because you get very in your own head and you can think your idea is excellent. And then you say it out loud and somebody then starts picking all the holes as to like why that doesn't really make sense, or, why they're not understanding it. But yeah, I think every book is different.
Yeah, totally. Now, of course, you brought up Heather Antos.
Yeah.
We're big fans of her here. I heard that when you handed in a script, she made a big comment there that some people might not think of as like, so is this fight scene silent? She said to you.
Yeah, that was my first ever note from Heather, and I was like, oh, this is the end of me. Like, I am done. I'm just gonna go bury this hole. So I sent Heather, my first draft of Rogues Gallery, the first script, and the first big note on the panel was literally, "Is this a silent fight scene?" And I'd never obviously thought about it before because when you're reading a script from acting or anything else, you're not hearing the like kapow and the like the slaps and all of those things. So like it was it was when I still need to make Heather a mug just saying like, "Is this a silent fight scene?" Like we need to make merch with that on it. But yeah, and I think about that now, like that's why an editor is excellent. So, in the scripts that I'm writing now, like in my mind, I like incorporate sounds in the process, if that makes sense, because you do need to incorporate. That's not the job of a letterer. You do need to hand that to somebody so they understand that, like, you want the ka-chings here and there, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we got an email in from David E, who says, Geeks, where is Hannah from? Is her work available online for purchase?
It is. I'm from Ireland. I say that I'm from Dublin, but I'm not. It's a lie. But nobody actually knows where the small town is. So I just say it so people are like, oh yeah, I know where Dublin is.
Well, where's the small town? What's the small town's name?
Yeah, I'm from Ashburn. It's like when our town got a cinema, it made the Wikipedia. Like that's, you know, so it's small. And also every single person in the town went for a job there. I got the job over a lot of my family members. So that's how small, that's, yeah, very small town. But it's, you know, it's the closest city is Dublin. But yes, I'm from Ireland. Nice. And yes, my work is available. Rogues Gallery 1 to 4 is out, all for sale now, and the trade is available for pre-order. You can, you know, get it anywhere you get your comics.
There you go.
So Hannah, with that, actually, that makes me think about like going from such a small town, like you're growing up, and then now you're writing comics, you're acting, you're working with some of the biggest people in Hollywood. You know, like you've that transition, that's quite a leap from like little Hannah to who you are today.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's funny because you know, my life has actually changed in the last 4 months. Like I was only telling somebody, even acting, you know, during the pandemic, I didn't have a green card. So when obviously entertainment shut down, my O1 visa had just expired. I was waiting for my green card to come in, which is the worst time to wait for any sort of immigration because everything was so slow. So I only just got all of that. So all of my acting career, the day that Rogues Gallery came out, just to put it into perspective, I hadn't been on a set in over 2 years. And the day Rogues Gallery came out, I booked CBS Ghosts. The day I was in the comic book store looking for like crying my first issue of my comic book, I booked Ghosts. And then that episode aired when the final issue of Rogues Gallery came out. It was like a weird little, like, you know, gift that the universe gave me. So I, you know, that's the one thing with Rogues Gallery is everyone keeps highlighting like a lot of, and it's really sweet and I really appreciate it. A lot of people are like, oh, she came out like out the gate with a smashing success and an overnight success. And it's really not though. Like there's been like for years I've wanted to do this, like, and I've broken my back for years with so much rejection, just obviously not in this space. And I do really appreciate, I do understand that like I've had a massive leg up in comics, but it's all the other work that I think did allow me to get here. So I just want anyone to not feel disheartened because I do worry about people on the internet, you know, who might think or see that are on this road and think, oh, I'm never going to get there. Like, look how easy it is for other people. And I just want to remind people like to continue on the same path. And that even if they're not in their line of work in comics and they think that what they're doing won't lead them there, I think that like what you're doing uniquely makes you interesting, you know? And even with Rogues Gallery, I think having an acting background is what made this story interesting because obviously as an actress, I could talk about entertainment and talk about those things on set. But yes, my life has changed drastically, especially in the last 4 months. If I could hug 16-year-old Hannah, who had absolutely no idea what she was doing, who the guidance counselor kept telling me that there was no such thing as a career in entertainment. And if I had to listen to that advice, I wouldn't be sitting here today. So basically, your teachers don't know, okay? Stay in school and don't do drugs.
Yeah, stay in school, don't do drugs. There we go. Yeah, nice little message at the end there.
But they know nothing.
They know nothing.
Okay, in your gut.
Yes, go with your gut. Go with what you want to do. You can make your dreams come true. Totally. But you brought up CBS Ghosts, and of course the episode aired last Thursday, and it was such a fun episode. It's the first time I actually checked out Ghosts, and it's like, okay, I got the premise pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Haunted house, people who've died there still there. But then it was it's fun to see the fact that this ghost was summoned by a seance that only the ghost could see. And you got to have a nice little interaction with one of the main characters throughout it. What was it like shooting that episode?
Oh, that whole thing I think was magical because, like, you know, I had become very comfortable being a writing hermit, sitting in this office, like writing. I was like, okay, this is my line of work now. I'm going to write comics forever, and I was very happy with that. But then obviously the universe is like, no, you got an audition again and you booked it, and here you are. I had to fly from SDCC after an image panel immediately after to Montreal to film that episode. So I had to cut SDCC early. And I literally hadn't even packed or anything. Like, it was like, you booked the job, you got to fly to Canada. It was like all very fast. But funnily enough, I had actually just left the interview space at SCCC and I had done an interview there, and I walked out of it and I'm facing the whole cast of Ghosts. They're all in front of me. And I had just literally booked the job, hadn't even signed the paperwork, hadn't, like, that was all happening. And like, my team was there, my agent was there. It was like one of those weird Hollywood moments that people talk about that I've never experienced before. And I'm standing there and they're kind of looking at me. We're kind of all looking at each other. And I'm like, I'm on Ghost now. And they're like, no fucking way. Swear, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's why you get, you can swear. Don't worry.
So it was actually really cool to meet the cast, because I was very nervous to return to set. I felt very rusty. So to have met them previously to then go to set was a joy. But yeah, it's such an easy concept, that show. Like, haunted house, as you said, like, you know, ghosts, they haven't gone up to heaven yet, so they're sticking around if they died in the premise on the property. Like, very easy premise, but it's all the people and the cast on that show that like really make it hysterical. It's an easy like 22-minute watch, and I'm so glad that I booked this job so I could like bring a lot of friends to it now, because now everyone loves it. But yeah, it was honestly one of the biggest joys of my career to date, just based on the people and the experience. It made me want to do more comedy. It was actually like my first ever comedy audition too, and now I'm like, oh, I need to do comedy. They have it sorted. This is the way to do life, you know, go and get paid to do jokes. You know.
Yeah, makes life a little bit easier. You know, you don't have to always worry about like some kind of intense drama thing where people are dying. Like, you know, you just have some fun.
You know? Yeah,
you don't have to go to those dark places. Yeah,
exactly. Because I have a whole playlist on my phone which is dark songs that I have to get into for auditions, and then you carry that with you for the day, you know. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. So do comedy.
Oh my God. So so that run-in with the cast of Ghosts, that was at San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah,
it truly is the most magical place on earth.
I mean, it's so funny because obviously it was my first, you know, Comic-Con as a creator, having been to so many before, you know, and I had hosted friends and interviewed people on panels because, again, I just love comics. And I always wondered why so many of my comic friends were walking around like, oh my God, SDCC, like it was miserable. And having now gone as a creator, I understand the exhaustion now. Now I was like, oh, I get it. We love to be here, but wow, this is exhausting.
Yeah, it's always amazing how you know, I'm sure it's like with acting as well. Like, there's probably, you have people in your life that, you know, like maybe your family or something that has said like, oh, you know, how hard is it to just go and pretend to be somebody, not realizing all of the things that you've done behind the scenes that you do to create that character. Very much like, you know, a little bit different than, of course, going to a con, but you know, interacting with people every day, all day long. It's hard. It's very hard.
Brain work.
Right?
You know,
sometimes you just rather break some rocks than talk to people.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is why at the next Comic-Con, there's going to be a break rocks room where you can just go there, break some rocks, not talk to anybody, and cool out. Yeah.
That sounds better, much better to me than like the meditation room that they would have in school. That was just an empty room where they would turn off the lights and lay on the floor. So I'm all for breaking rocks. It sounds way more therapeutic. I think Maisie Wade and Rogues Gallery would really appreciate an opportunity like that, to have like broke rocks and punch something.
Definitely.
I would espouse that therapeutic journey for sure. There's sometimes you just need to break some rocks, you know.
Yeah.
I feel like this should come with a disclaimer, but you know.
Yeah, we're talking about small rocks with like a little hammer. We're not talking about, you know, we're not talking about crack rocks because we said don't do drugs. We're not talking about big boulders. Just to stay safe, totally. We got an email in from Justin L. I'm actually going to read this one later because it's about the movie review. But you know, it's funny. You were saying earlier about how these past 4 months that everything's changed, and of course, you got the comic series out. You had the appearance on Ghosts and everything. So good things happening in the comic world, good things happening in the acting world, and now those two worlds have come together because Don Cheadle's production company has optioned Rogues Gallery to produce it as a series. Correct?
Yes, they have. It's again, I feel like we're talking about somebody else. Yeah, that's we're deep in the woodwork on that. It's all very exciting. The response has been nuts, and even even Don having Don knowing that Don Cheadle, knowing that he liked Rogues Gallery was like would have made my life, never mind
Right.
enough to like produce it as a TV show. I absolutely love Don Cheadle, and obviously him being War Machine, I feel like it's like I couldn't have picked a better partner to tell a story based on superheroes and toxic fandom, because he's dealt with it. I think any actor who has played a superhero has dealt with it at some point in their career. All you have to do is go to Twitter, and I'm sure search their name, and they'll have experienced it to some degree. So yeah, Don Cheadle, I'm getting to produce it alongside him too, which is a crazy career opportunity. And Karen Smith Forge, she's behind a ton of the superhero stuff that we know today. So yeah, it's an insane team.
So it's great to. Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's a weird bit of meta, just closing that circle. A comic about a TV show that's about a comic now is being turned into a TV show about a comic. That loop,
yeah.
It's very meta.
Time really is a flat circle.
Yeah, right.
Jeez.
It is. And I'm sure like the more news that comes out about it too will even be more meta. So yeah, no, it's great. We had tons of interest too. It was a crazy situation, both from TV and film. A lot of people wanted to take Rogues Gallery to TV and film, so it was really cool to see that. And all of the interest was also prior to the book's success.
Wow.
It was based on the concept. Yeah, it was based on the concept alone. I end up getting signed. I got a literary agent. So much has come from Rogues Gallery. It's really crazy. So again, all I'll say is if you have that thing, write that thing, because you have absolutely no idea what's going to come from it. But yeah, Rogues Gallery, I'm really excited about it. And yeah, we've got some good things in the works. I know there's a lot of people wanting volume 2 and everything else. And I'm not saying anything yet, but it's it's not over. Okay.
It's not over. Definitely.
I was going to ask about that because, like, obviously, you've got an acting career that you're continuing to enjoy, and now, but obviously, it's very clear from talking to us that you very much appreciate and love writing the comics, and want to do more. And you kind of teased a bit of some other projects a bit down the road. Is this something that you think that you are going to be able to juggle between the two?
The acting pays for the comic books. That's
okay. Okay.
So that's how I see it. I'm like, I love acting. I always thought that it was my like one and only love, and my only thing that really felt fulfilling in my life. Modeling never did that for me, but modeling paid the bills. But then, now being in comic books, I feel like I was always meant to be here. This was it's everything I've ever wanted in one medium, and I can't believe that I get to write something and create something that other people get to enjoy. It's like the biggest gift. So acting allows me to continue to fund comic books, because anyone who's never made a comic book knows that it's not cheap, it's not cheap, especially if you want to look after your team fairly, which everyone should. So so I'm very fortunate to be able to have a job outside of comics that does allow me to fund them, and I'm hoping that continues. So that's always going to be the hope for me, is to continue working in entertainment and working in comic books. I hope that I could do this until I'm old and gray.
Well, hey, maybe you'll make more comics that you get to turn into more TV shows and movies. Just like
there you go.
Continue that. Yeah, right.
It just keeps producing more. But with the TV deal, is this your first time as a producer on something as well?
It is. I'm like, how much can I say? There will be some other news, but this is my first. I'm also writing EP on this, so I will get to be in the writer's room and participate in all of that. So yeah, I'm very. So this
comic has opened up so many avenues.
It's true. It's true. It is, and the thing that's wonderful about it is that I'll be able to also open up plenty of avenues for other people, which is the most important thing for me, especially as we're filling out the team. And, as writers' rooms and all those discussions happen, I'm so fortunate that I'll be able to open the door for other people in the way that the door was open for me. so yeah, I think that's the big thing. That was like, you know, as I said, we had plenty of offers on the table for Rogues Gallery, but the big thing for me was making sure that I got to maintain on board, and I got to see how it all happened and how everything was made. You know, and a lot of people said that that was going to be impossible to like to stay on board for those things. And had I listened to that, I would have taken a less better opportunity. But I just believed that if, you know, if we continue to not allow the people who create these things to be at the forefront of these things, then when do we get the opportunity to do it? And I felt like, especially with Rogues Gallery, the whole concept is that she was sidelined. So when I was receiving offers that were sidelining me, I was like, did you read the book? You know? So I'm very grateful that Don Cheadle out the gate, his production company, wanted me to be involved in all of this and are being the best partners that I could have possibly wanted on this, and are very much being open and keeping me in the loop and wanting to hear my opinion on things. And I think that's when you hope that something will actually, you know, be the best that it can be, because they kept the people involved in it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. My God. Now, of course, with this comic series coming out, as you mentioned, you've been a comic fan for years, and you've met creators over the years at various conventions, become friends with and everything. How good was it to like take your comic and walk over to Marc Silvestri and go, here, and put it in his hands?
Honestly, it was one of those things where I hadn't thought about it. I never thought about like, oh, what it's going to be like to be able to. Marc is like, to me, Marc is like the BFG. Like, I just love him. He is the big friendly giant. I couldn't love him more. And him and his wife Bridget, I think they're an amazing pair. I've always, when I met Marc finally, I think back in 2015 or 2017, when I'd seen him at plenty of Comic Cons before, but I never had the courage to go up to him. And I cried when I met him. I tried to hold myself together, and I literally welled up, and he was so sweet about it. But even when I was waiting in line at his table at New York Comic Con with my comic and a bunch of other things in my hand, and he stopped the line when he saw me, which was incredibly kind and incredibly sweet, and stood up immediately and gave me the biggest hug and congratulated me on Rogues Gallery. And it was just the warmest reception. And it was kind of one of those like very, you know, full circle, I did it moments. It was actually in that moment that I realized that like, oh wow, I actually have a comic book that like my idol is telling me that they love and congratulating me on. Yeah, it was, I can't explain it. It was wonderful.
That's awesome.
Sounds amazing. That's who wouldn't want to have that kind of interaction and validation, as it were, like to know that you know, you're appreciated in that way. Even somebody who was technically a stranger before all of this happened.
Yeah. There's been plenty of people in the space that like, even Scott Snyder, I had actually never met Scott Snyder. I didn't have the relationship with him that I have with Silvestri, but Scott Snyder tweeted out on Rogues Gallery. I didn't even know Scott Snyder, you know, knew anything about me. And he tweeted that he loved and supported Rogues Gallery. And he gave us like an incredible quote, and we didn't even ask for it. And I thought that was so kind. The last thing I would have thought of was, oh, I'm going to ask Scott Snyder to take a look at Rogues Gallery. You know, like I would have been like, yeah, right, Hannah. So when that happened, Justin Mason, the artist from Rogues Gallery, we both called each other and we were freaking out. Literally, like, couldn't believe it. And then I actually saw Scott at New York Comic Con. It was the first time I met him in person. And again, he was so generous and, you know, let me know that if there was anything that he could do to like keep him in the loop. And I was like, what do you mean? You tweeted that you loved it. There's nothing, you know, there's nothing more I could ask for you. That was the biggest reward. And now I get to say forever, that's, you know, I get to quote Scott Snyder on Rogues Gallery.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is amazing.
Oh yeah. So these are all pros that, like, you know, I've loved and admired for years and read their work, and never in a million years thought that they would be, you know, admiring something that I did. So I'm very grateful. And that's one thing, like, comics really, you know, the community really has like opened their arms, and I hope someday I can do it for other people too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Well, before we get going here, just want to ask you one last question. Of course, after New York Comic Con, you spent some time in New York, had some fun there. And I read an Instagram post you put out about Walker Hotel in Tribeca, about how they had the most amazing beds. How was it, like sleeping on a cloud? What was so insane about these beds that you didn't want to leave the room?
Honestly, that's not even a lie. Like, that's dead honest. I'll be entirely honest with you. That was a free hotel stay for me, but I'm not even lying. Those beds were the most comfortable beds I've ever stayed on, to the point that I tried to take the sheets off to find the tag so that I could purchase them. But there were so many sheets. It was like one sheet after the next sheet. I was like, wow, even the housekeeping is exceptional. It was like a Christmas gift that like wouldn't end. But yeah, I could have said so much about that hotel. As I said, they very kindly gifted me that stay, but there was nothing more complimentary that I could have given them than that bed. It was insane. So yeah, if anyone knows what the mattress was or the pillows were, please let me know.
Yeah, very rarely do people on a trip to New York wish for rain, but you were wishing for rain to stay in. Gee.
I'm Irish. I live in LA. All I wanted was rain. I literally had a whole suitcase of winter clothes, and apparently I got like the warmest 2 weeks, or I guess I was there for a lot longer than that, like warmest month that I possibly could have got in New York, which was lovely. But you know, I think I got like 20 minutes of rain.
It's very rare to hear somebody go, I want rain. I want like cold weather.
I do. Even filming in Montreal for Ghosts, I was, got the best weather ever. And I'm like, these places are supposed to be chilly,
Well, I'm sure you'll book another show and maybe end up here in Toronto. We get a lot of rain here. So there you go. Oh, man. Well, Hannah, I want to thank you for coming on the program and talking with us about Rogues Gallery and Ghosts, and we look forward to everything that happens with Rogues Gallery and your other comic properties. Can't wait to hear when all these announcements come out, and of course you're welcome back here anytime to talk about all this and more.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome. I listen to you guys a lot, so I was really flattered that you asked me to be on, and I can't wait to come back and be able to tell you guys some more and not be so secretive.
Wow, well, I did not know that you've listened to the show before, so again, for previous episodes, I'm sorry. Yeah. Hope this one was much better than those other ones. All right. So there you
go. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks,
have
Hannah.
yourself a great night.
Well, thanks.
Bye.
Bye.